and they're looking good. But if you have a lot, and I mean a lot, of siblings, it can be hard to stand out. Tuesday, Too Cute, at 8:35 on Pearl. At 60, many workers face leaving a job they've had for years, ending up jobless and having to fund a retirement that might last 20 years or more. The Pearl Report looks at a predicament. Hong Kong has no standard retirement age, but the workforce is out of work too soon. Monday night at 8.
It was 20 years ago. Ever since, time has never been so magical.
The time now is 11:40. The Time Check was brought to you by Chopard.
Charges of fear-mongering over Occupy Central movement. June 4th museum opens to public. And Ryan Giggs on challenges ahead for Man U. Good evening and welcome. The Secretary for Security is attempting to ease concerns about Beijing's intervention over the Occupy Central movement. But Lai Tung-kwok is refusing to say if the government has any established mechanism to determine how and when it would ask for help. Diane To has more.
Beijing officials have been showing great concern about the proposed Occupy Central campaign. Earlier this week, the director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Wang Guangya, told a delegation of local media executives that the SAR government could seek Beijing's help if the civil disobedience movement gets out of control. According to the Basic Law, Hong Kong may seek the assistance of the People's Liberation Army when necessary. In an interview with TVB News, Secretary for Security Lai Tung-kwok refused to say how or under what circumstances the SAR government would make that request.
Something that is in the Basic Law does not necessarily mean that we have to invoke it. The Basic Law also requires us to maintain the law and order of Hong Kong. This is our duty. And we have a duty to do a good job for that. And I'm confident that we can do that.
But does this mean that the government has no set guidelines or no mechanism discussed?
Well, what we are now doing is that we monitor closely the development. And we have thorough plans of how to handle any likely situation that may arise by our police officers.
One of the organizers of Occupy Central, Chan Kim-man, said Beijing was just trying to create fear.
It is completely unnecessary because Occupy Central had already declared that we are going to be non-violence. And Hong Kong people have a very long history of launching peaceful demonstration. We never need the help from the PLA.
Chan cited the 2005 World Trade Organization protests as an example. He said Hong Kong authorities were able to handle the situation well, even at the height of the demonstrations, including those staged by South Korean farmers. Diane To, TVB News.
Relatives of the victims of the 2012 Lama ferry disaster met this afternoon with the Secretary for Transport and Housing. They're pushing the government to release a full internal investigation report on the tragedy. Ronnie Samtani with details.
Officials are standing by their reasons not to release the full report publicly. Only a summary of the report was released on Thursday, revealing that 17 former and serving Marine Department officers are suspected of misconduct.
The victims' families view, the majority of them, still we demand for full disclosure. They want the truth. They want the whole truth. They want, as much as possible, what the authority, under various restrictions, can disclose to them.
To and the families are calling on legislators to support invoking special LegCo powers to investigate the case. They are also requesting a meeting with the chief executive.
Some families indeed have suggested whether it would be possible for them to look at the report on condition of signing some sort of declaration on confidentiality or even for such declaration to carry criminal liability. As Secretary for Transport and Housing, I'm not in a position to provide such legal response. But I said I would bring their suggestions to the Department of Justice.
The full report has been handed over to the police to assist with the criminal investigation. Meanwhile, findings of the internal investigation will be discussed at the Legislative Council's Panel on Economic Development meeting on Monday. Secretary for Justice Rimsky-Yoon says the Director of Public Prosecutions will attend the LegCo meeting to explain the legal basis for only disclosing a summary of the report. Yoon also expressed reservations about the possible use of special LegCo powers to look into the incident. And as to whether officers found guilty will be punished, Yoon says the Department of Justice will advise the Civil Service Bureau on taking follow-up actions. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
All 15 crew members in charge of the ferry that sank in South Korea are now under arrest for criminal negligence. Before wrapping up his visit to South Korea, U.S. President Barack Obama offered his condolences over the tragedy. Sonia Artero reports.
10 days after the sinking of the Seawall ferry, more than 180 bodies have been recovered, but more than 100 people are still missing. As divers continue plucking bodies out of the vessel, they came upon a horrible sight. The drowned bodies of 48 children in a single room meant to accommodate 38. Each of the dead had a life jacket on. More fuel for the fire, driving investigators on a mission to seek justice for families of the dead. What's more, the ship sank with several life rafts unused, even though it had more than enough for everyone. On suspicion the life rafts were faulty, investigators seized the Seawall's sister ship and discovered its life rafts and escape chutes were not working properly. Knowing only government inspectors can render ships safe, prosecutors made a number of raids on offices on suspicion officials had been bribed. President Obama expressed America's condolences by presenting his South Korean counterpart, Park Geun-hye, with the same American flag that was lowered over the White House the day the ship sank. He also visited American troops serving in the South to personally thank them for searching for survivors.
You provided quick support in response to last week's terrible ferry tragedy. Because we understood when our friends are in trouble, America helps. And our hearts are broken for our Korean friends.
While uttering disparities between the two Koreas, Obama said the North remains a huge threat to Asia, but that the U.S. has Seoul's back.
Between a democracy that is growing and a pariah state that would rather starve its people than feed their hopes and dreams. That's not the result of a war, that's the result of the path that North Korea has taken.
Following his remarks, Obama left for Malaysia. This is the third stop of his four-country Asia tour. He'll meet with Prime Minister Najib Razak during his two-day state visit. Obama is the first American leader to visit Malaysia in nearly 50 years. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
A team of negotiators from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe will try to secure the release of a group of observers being held by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. The latest twist in the crisis comes ahead of more looming sanctions against Russia. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry says it lost contact with members of the military verification mission yesterday. The 13 members of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe had been dispatched to the rest of Donetsk region. The main separatist leader in Slavyansk says a military spy from Kiev was discovered among the group. Doesn't look good, he says.
couple of items for all of you.
Washington says the incident appears to be part of a disturbing trend.
And over the past week, we've unfortunately seen an increase in a rapid escalation in hostage takings by pro-Russian separatists. We condemn these repressive and cowardly tactics, and call for the release of all hostages.
Russia, which is also a member of the OSCE, says it's taking all possible steps to free the observers. Meanwhile, a new round of targeted sanctions could come as early as Monday. The new sanctions are intended to punish Russia for failing to comply with an international deal to help defuse the crisis. The Geneva Agreement requires that illegal armed groups lay down their weapons and leave illegally occupied buildings. Moscow blames Kiev for not implementing the agreement and says it's eager to assist in de-escalating the crisis. The sanctions will likely target wealthy individuals or companies with influence in specific sectors of the Russian economy, such as energy and banking. Kiev is demanding that Moscow withdraw its troops from the border, which are estimated to number about 40,000.
Our motherland.
Anxious Ukrainian officials accuse Moscow of plotting an imminent invasion.
As things stand right now, do you fear that the Russians are on the verge of an invasion?
Yes. We have the information that we are endangered. That's why we call upon Russian authorities to explain for what reasons they keep so many troops along our border.
Back here in Hong Kong, police have found a small marijuana garden at a dormitory building at the University of Hong Kong. One man was arrested. This afternoon, a student reported seeing marijuana plants at Lee Shao Kee Hall. Officers arrived to find about 5 plants. The suspect is 21 years old. It's believed he's a student at the school. The June 4th Memorial Museum in Jim Sha Choi today opened its doors to the public. Vicky Kong takes a look.
At the opening ceremony today, museum organizers tore apart a People's Daily article that supported the 1989 crackdown in Tiananmen Square. 25 years on, and the Hong Kong Alliance in Support of Patriotic Democratic Movements of China is now hosting the world's first June 4th Memorial Museum.
I think the significance of this museum is that, we preserve the truth as a struggle against suppression of memory inside China. And we hope that the new generation will come, mainland visitor will come, so that the truth can be spread around Hong Kong and China.
This university student from the mainland is among the first batch of visitors this afternoon. He says he wants to look at the June 4th incident from different angles instead of just listening to the official version. Others insisted on coming here on the first day, citing concerns that the owner's corporation of the building is suing the museum for hosting exhibitions here.
In a lot of landowner association try to stop it. So before they may have a chance to close it, that's why I come here to see it.
Organizers say running the museum costs about $800,000 a year. They estimate that admission fees can cover half of that. The rest will come from the sale of souvenirs and donations. This bookshelf here holds more than 100 publications on the June 4th incident, a topic that's centered on the mainland. Though the books are not for lending, visitors can always give them a read while they're here. The Alliance has adopted crowd control measures, allowing only 20 visitors inside the building every 15 minutes. And a group that's against the Alliance marked the opening by staging a protest today. Vicky Kong, TVB News.
Secretary for Security Lai Tung-kwok has called on the public to be more accepting of mainland visitors. As Rachel Long tells us, this follows the emergence of a video showing a mainland kid urinating on a busy street in Mongkok.
An online campaign calling on mainland parents to have their children urinate on the streets of Hong Kong during the Labor Day holiday has sparked controversy. This follows anger over a video that's gone viral on social media, showing scuffles between a man who filmed a toddler urinating publicly in Mongkok recently and the kid's mainland parents. Some in Hong Kong have proposed a counter-campaign, taking photographs of mainlanders answering nature's call in public places. It's yet another example of rising cross-border tensions. Secretary for Security Lai Tong-kwok said it's hard to avoid such conflicts